Hello friends, this is Priya. Welcome to valuetrainings.com. So for SOAPUI training, the first thing which you should know is about a web service. So let's start with the very basic concepts related to web service. What is a web service, example on web service, and what are the standards which are used in a web service. Okay, so first thing is, what is a web service? So how I can define a web service? So in a layman terms, I can say it is a way to communicate between different operating systems, between different applications, between different platforms which are actually working on different languages. Okay, so how I can show the example for a web service? Let's see. Let's say if it's my first application, it's my second application. First application is based on my Java, the second application is based on .NET, and they both wants to communicate. What is the meaning of communication here? Communication means both wants to interchange the data. How they can do, and what is the actual concept which is working behind both of these applications, because of which the communication is possible. The concept is nothing but a web services concept. Okay, so when both applications are actually communicating, something is getting exchanged, right? From the first application side and from the second application side, something is getting sent back to my first application. So that kind of communication is possible, and the complete scenario is nothing but a web service. Okay, so this is on the different applications, on different operating system, or on different platforms which are actually working on different languages. So in a technical words, what I can say for a web service is a collection of standards and protocols, okay, with the help of which communication is possible. So this is all about the concept of web service. What are the open standards? What are these standards? What are these protocols? We all are here for that all things, right? For SOAPUI training, I'll cover each and everything. So now, if I say about the standards and protocols, I list out some of the standards and the protocols like SOAP or REST, JSON. You'll face XML, many methods, and many more things. Okay, so these all are what? These all are my standards which are there in my web services concept. Okay, so now the one more practical example which is based on a web service I'll show you. Let's say if this is my website for Make My Trip, right? If you open, you'll get many more options, and say if you fill from Delhi you want to travel to Mumbai on 21st of March and no return trip, and then say if I select search, what I'll get back? Get searching. So it's searching me, it's giving me back the possible flights which are there, right, on that date, on the particular date, which are actually fulfilling my conditions, right? So what I'm actually doing and what I'm getting back. If I want you to explain you with the help of this diagram, see what I'm doing. As an end user, I am sending this, I'm just writing Make My Trip, and I'm sending my conditions, my requirements. I want to travel from Delhi to Mumbai on this date, right? And then what I did, I just send my request, and Make My Trip is doing what? Make My Trip is sending its request to all the vendors which are there, which are available under Make My Trip. Here I just mentioned 3, maybe here 100 of vendors are there. Okay, so Make My Trip send from the requirements of end users, sending the request to all the vendors, right? And what I'm getting back, if you see here, what I'm getting back, I'm getting back the list of all the vendors which are actually available, right? So what I'm getting, I'm actually getting back this thing. I'm getting back the response. But the thing is, see, request Make My Trip send to all the vendors. If there are 3 vendors, to all the vendors MakeMyTrip is sending the request, but the response I'll get back only from those vendors who do satisfy the conditions which are required by the end user, right? So request I did send to all the vendors, the MakeMyTrip website send the request to all the vendors, and response I'll get back from few of the vendors. So nothing is working actually. This complete communication is possible just because of the concept of a web service. Okay, so this is a very simple example which is actually giving me the complete thing which is actually working behind my web services. Okay, so now how is this communication is possible? Are we following some of the standards, some of the rules? Yes, we are following, and that rules are nothing but these standards. Okay, there are HTTP protocol, there are HTTPS protocols, or SMTP, many more protocols are working behind the scenes. Okay, and how this communication is possible? There is a particular language with the help of which all the communication is getting possible between the end user and the vendors who are actually giving back the response. So all these things we'll cover in our training. So this is all about the topics for today. Thank you so much.